now, or after the team runs the analysis, then we try to write out some of the results to make them just a little bit more, easier to understand. The other thing is, as we're meeting today, we're meeting in communities of practice, and really the discussion under the statute is always effectiveness. So we're always looking for areas where programs are effective or not effective. And you'll see this year we have a pretty elaborate evaluation matrix. So without further ado, I'm going to keep going through these so we can get to each of your programs. Um, as most of you know, our why is really so when you get this evaluation that it's useful to you. So you will have an opportunity at the end of this presentation today to give us some feedback via Qualtrics survey. But it's really like taking your program and determining is it effective at achieving the vision that you have for it? So is it effectively doing and having an impact and working with the kids you want to work with? So the reports are really designed to be useful for you. They're hopefully useful for you and your staff to look at ways you can improve the intervention or service that you provide. If there's a group or if there's something that's not working, we want you to be able to see that as well. So if there's specific youth that your program is not sufficiently reaching, or if a certain percent of your cases are unsuccessful, we try to point that out as well. And then, as always, our recommendations are specific to your program, so they're not generic. So when you read those, that's what you need to know is those are really tailored and individually written out for your program. So to do this, we always need data, always. You can't tell if something's effective if you don't have enough cases. So that's both in cases referred, but then also cases that are closed. So sometimes we see a program has left some cases open. Sometimes cases are really good at intaking. They accept the referral, they enroll the youth, and then they close it. So we can see that whole process. But if they haven't done the updates to those specific outcomes for your program, so for ATDs, that's the data that's around, did the youth remain in the community? Did the youth go to detention? So when we're looking at specific outcomes for programs, we need to have cases throughout the whole process in order for us to do a good evaluation. So some measures are uniform across all community-based aid programs. I think all of you know that. Under the statute, the way the statute's written, community-based aid funds are really designed to front load and keep kids out of future involvement with the legal system, whether that's juvenile or adult. And so some of our measures that are uniform and we measure across all programs are, you can go to the next slide, Michelle, are the definitions of future system involvement. So status offenses and law violations or law offenses, we look at those 1 year after the youth has completed a program. So if they've discharged from a program, and you'll see in the report, we try to break them out as successful, unsuccessful, and other when we have enough cases. But for probation and detention, we look at any point after the youth has completed the program. So that can be longer than 1 year after completion. So now I get to turn this over to Michaela today to kind of guide you on how to read your report.
Thank you, Ann. So we'll go through some of the main graphs that you'll see on each of the pages of your report. If you were a part of this process last year, very similar to that, we can go to the next slide. So the first page, like last year, is mostly just demographics of the clients that you served. And so this is just reporting what was put into JCMS for your program for those 3 years of the three fiscal years. Kind of reporting back to you, who did you serve? Does this line up with what you were expecting, or anything different? So at the top, we've got your just basic program information. And then for ATD programs, we have it split out of the type of cases that you served. We didn't split out separate reports for tracker services versus electronic monitoring. These were combined into one ATD report, and that was because, with the exception of the example given here, but most of the time the cases were too few. And so if we split out tracker cases versus electronic monitoring cases, we wouldn't have been able to do a full evaluation. So that's why we decided to go ahead and just combine all of the cases, but we wanted to still report out how many of each type of ATD were served. So you've got those pie charts there at the top of your page that describe the distribution of electronic monitoring versus tracker community youth coaching or reporting center cases. And then as you see on the slide, we have a new graph this year that's a proportion plot. And so it's doing a similar feature as what we reported last year, where we were comparing the county population to the program population. Now, we had a lot of conversation last year about the accuracy, I guess, of comparing a alternative to detention population to just the general youth population in the county. And we do want to note that that county population isn't going to be great representation for the youth you're serving because, as we are all familiar and know, that the population of youth coming in contact with police, being referred to the courts, and being referred to detention, but alternatives to detention aren't always going to be exactly distributed like the county. So this year we tried to get law enforcement contact race and ethnicity data to compare to that population, but unfortunately we weren't able to get that. It wasn't collected consistently across the counties by race and ethnicity, and so we were limited to keep with the county comparison overall. But that's what this plot is doing, is it's showing on the left side your county's overall youth population, and then on the right side, the distribution of race and ethnicity among just your program's population for those 3 years. So in this example, you can see that for the county, over 70% of youth were white, but for this program, just about a third were white. And so that graph kind of funnels in smaller for the program. And so you can see where there's some greater distribution of other racial or ethnicity groups in the program. Also on this page, you have some other demographics like age and gender, as well as just a breakdown of the youth referred and enrolled. For a lot of programs, most of the youth referred were enrolled, so that bar chart doesn't really have a huge amount of empty space. The graph I'm describing isn't on this slide, but it's just telling you overall how many youth were referred to enrolled and then breaking that down by race and ethnicity as well. Next slide. So the second page is what Anne was mentioning. This year, since we've got 3 years of data, we are reporting some trends over time now to see if referrals or rates of enrollment changed over the time periods that were served, and or if discharge reasons or overall outcomes changed. So see, this first graph is just looking at your referrals and enrollments. So for the example that's shown here on the slide, where we have gaps, the black line is the referrals, the blue kind of blocks are the enrollments. And so where you see gaps right after July 2021, that's indicating some months where maybe 4 or 5 youth were referred, but only 2 or 3 were actually enrolled. So that's kind of a quick way to look at it. Sometimes the distribution of referrals to enrollment is off, or not off, but is distributed just so where the gaps don't show super well. And so in those cases, we've added value labels to more clearly differentiate when you have those months that not all youth were enrolled that were referred. And then we try to give some narratives for most of these graphs to explain what you're kind of seeing. So in this case, we talk about the overall distribution of referrals between the 3 fiscal years, as well as how often youth were being enrolled versus not. So you see in the first year, almost or all of the youth were enrolled in this case, but then starting in fiscal year 21 to 22 and going forward, more youth were not being enrolled. And then next on that page, Uh, right before this graph, you have discharge reasons. No, it's okay, Michelle, you can go to that next slide. You will have a little table of just the discharge reasons summarized by the fiscal year. So just kind of numbers looking at whether those rates are going up or down. And then this last graph is a little complicated, so definitely wanted to take time to explain this one. The very bottom total all youth distribution should look identical to the graph that you see at the top of the page, what we just went over with overall referrals. Then these other kind of mountains that we see are going to be the breakdown of those referrals by the race and ethnicity. So in this case, you see that it was fairly consistent. All of the racial and ethnicity groups increased in referrals at the same time that the overall referrals were increasing. But what we might look for are very obvious gaps for certain groups or very obvious increases. So maybe we could see in the middle, July 2021 to 22, maybe you'd see that white youth were getting referred a lot more often than Hispanic youth. And that's just something that we might not be able to tell if we looked at the overall rates of different groups being referred or enrolled. And so that's where this trend analysis is coming in. For the most part, though, the distribution was fairly consistent for most programs across time.
One other thing I'll point out about that last, the mountainous one is in some programs you'll see a spike during certain months, and that might be helpful for your programmatic or staffing, right? If you see big spikes, like they're not here for January of 2021, but like if you see big spikes in time, that might be something helpful for you. Thanks.
All right, and so then the third page we have is looking at outcomes. So for ATD programs, we had three specific program direct outcomes. So that was looking at detainments at the end of or at the point of discharge, as well as relatedly how many youth remained in the community. Those are separate areas in JCMS, so that's why there are two outcomes that are kind of related to one another. But the remaining in the community was focused solely on youth that were placed back at home or with their other family members. So there is a chance that some of those youth might have been placed in group home, so they weren't technically detained, but they also were removed from their direct community. And then the third is their progress at discharge. And so this little block that you see here on the slide is on the upper right corner of most of the reports. And so it's showing a pie chart for those remained in the community. And then it's just describing the amount of youth that were detained. In this case, only one youth was detained at discharge. And then the numbers or the percentage of youth that had made progress by the point of discharge. Next slide. All right. And then also on this page, we have, again, another comparison across those race and ethnicity groups, this time looking at overall discharge outcomes. So you saw more specific discharge reasons on that second page in the table. This time for this chart, we have combined those into these 5 categories. The biggest categories are going to be the successful, unsuccessful, or did not participate groups, but we do also allow for other discharges which aren't considered unsuccessful. No fault of the youth, the family, or the program. It was just maybe the youth or the family moved away, and so it needed to be transferred to another program. And then this kind of missing value where the case might still be open or the discharge reason was unspecified. And so then we've got at the top just the total overall distribution of these discharge reasons for all youth served. And then below that, each bar represents a different race or ethnicity group to try and see differences across those groups. So in this example, you see that the dark blue is unsuccessful. And while Hispanic youth are lining up pretty close to the percentage of overall youth that experienced unsuccessful discharges, the white youth, none of them had unsuccessful discharges. So it looks like Hispanic and unspecified race groups are kind of leading that unsuccessful category in the overall rates.
So if for me, if this was my program, I think what that would tell me is to maybe look into those 12 cases I get, or those 33 cases overall, or the 12% that were not successful, and maybe examine if there's specific things that you could do as a program. So that's one way that you could use this type of report or graph.
And one last thing I will note on these is we've reported the percentages, but on the left with the labels, you can see in parentheses the total number of youth in that category. And so for those categories with fewer than 10, I would really advise caution on interpreting those. So you can see that another race, that category only had one youth. So 100% looks like a lot, but that's a single youth compared to 33 Hispanic or 15 white youth. So that should take those smaller categories with a grain of salt and maybe only focus on the ones that have greater than 10 cases. All right. Real quick, before we get into the final evaluation matrix, as Anne went over, we've got future system involvement on the reports. This is very similar to last year and the definition that Anne described. This year, we've described the overall system involvement for youth that participated in the program. That'll be the first box of numbers on the left side of the future system involvement section. And then we've broken it down successful compared to a combined group of unsuccessful other or did not participate youth. And it's breaking down how many of those youth had any system involvement and then the specific types of system involvement, such as status violations or law violations, probation, or detention. For a few programs, not very many, but a few, we've split that comparison out into three groups actually to compare successful to unsuccessful or other discharges to did not participate. So that third did not participate group is only included on a few when we had greater than 10 cases in that category. And so that's why most programs enrolled most of the youth. And so we just didn't have the numbers to compare all three of those groups.
Kayla, I'm realizing that we don't have that chart on there. I was going to say if it's helpful, I could pull it up, but if not, we can discuss it in our smaller groups.
Yeah, if you have any questions on that, happy to answer. The last thing on that page related to system involvement is a survival curve is the term for it. And it's looking at the percentage of youth that become system or are not system involved technically, the percentage of youth not system involved for each day following discharge from the program. And so as that line declines, that's indicating more youth becoming system involved as they get further out from when they left the program. And so ideally, what you're looking for is the darker line, which is unsuccessful or other category groups. You want that to be below the light blue line, which is indicating that successfully discharged group of youth. And then we've run some statistical analyses on those as well, and those results are both reported in footnotes at the bottom of that page as well as in the narrative that we describe at the end, looking at the statistical significance of system involvement between those two comparison groups, or the three groups if you had enough cases. All right, so now we've got the evaluation matrix. It should look very similar to what we had last year if you were part of that process. However, this year we worked with the Crime Commission. We've reduced it to just outcomes. Last year we looked at both process outcomes and program overall outcomes to evaluate. We've still reported most of the processes because those are important to look into if there are any outcomes not meeting what you would like. Looking at those processes can be a really good starting point, but they aren't included in the rating or the evaluation process. So we've just got those three program outcomes and then the two system involvement outcomes. So the three program outcomes are we've also, added weighting this year, which is those numerical scores at the end of each column. And it's then creating a total score over a score over a total evaluation score. So we've got the three program outcomes and then the successful cases versus all other cases, future system involvement, and then in overall system involvement. So overall future system involvement was fairly high for most ATD programs. And so I did want to note that here is if you're seeing that like low -5 category circled on yours, that is relatively common. We did debate going back and forth on whether to change these cutoffs for ATD programs. The cutoff is already higher than for other programs we're evaluating, such as family support or mental health programs. With that 35% cutoff, that is a higher threshold. However, it still was met by most of the programs. And so just letting you know that that is relatively common, but we used the threshold of probation recidivism for the past few years to make that. And we went back and forth with the Crime Commission on that best one. So that is what we ultimately decided. And we did decide to keep that for this year. But that is something just to note is that was that low or that high FSI was found in most of the programs. All right, and then at the end of that page, you can go to the next slide, Michelle. You'll see this kind of sliding scale rating where we calculated the total score. So if you had the 2.5 scores for the 3 program outcomes, and then maybe a 0.5, a +5 for successful cases FSI, and a -5 for overall future system involvement, that would create a total score of 2.5 out of 15. Or actually, I think that total score would be 7.5. Sorry, I can do math. 7.5 out of 20. I was looking at a different one. And that then creates this percentage score. And so the cutoffs that you'll see at the end of the matrix that we just looked at, the overall rating, it says where those thresholds are met for each of the rating outcomes. So for 0% or negative points, you have the no effect to limited effect category. For 1% to 50% of the total possible points, you have promising. There were a few programs that met that 50% threshold. And so unfortunately, we had to keep it on promising. But we did make sure to note in the narrative that that was right there on the borderline. And so you could probably easily get into that effective range quickly. And then finally, over 50% is that effective category. All right, and then the last page is, like I said, that narrative summary, going through each of those categories we evaluated, as well as some descriptions of the processes that we reviewed and just how to read it, how to interpret it, what are the implications of this, and then ending with the recommendations based on this evaluation outcome.
If you do have other reports coming up, first of all, don't go anywhere because if you want to talk one-on-one, we're going to go into breakout rooms. But if you do have other types of programs funded under community-based aid or juvenile services, some of these report dates are coming up. Assessment and referral programs will be the next ones in February. So just be aware the process is very similar, but some of the outcomes are different. So you'll want to sit in those. I think it would be helpful. For truancy and school-based, we haven't set some of the times on those yet. So before we go into individual report discussions, are there any questions just overall about the reports this year, the process, the data, any of that? Then what I will do, Faith is going to help us get into 2 separate breakout rooms. If you can, if you want to meet with us, if you can stay in this room, the meetings only take a few minutes, and so Faith is going to put up a very short Qualtrics survey that we would love to get your opinion on the reports. You won't hurt our feelings. You can be as honest as you need to be. So if you could spend the time while you're waiting. Filling out that survey would be enormously helpful. And then Faith, whenever you're ready, you can send us to our rooms.
If you would like to do a meeting, could you just send me a quick message? And if you're like have someone else in your program who's here as well, you guys want to go into a room together, just please let me know.
I'm antsy. I'm freezing. My toes are freezing. All right, Sarah, I see your message. Ryan, Leslie, and Sarah should be in one room. Faith.
Sounds good. Okay. Then Michelle, I can't put you in a room because you're the host, so you're gonna have to put yourself in it. Just so you know.
So I think I'll join Dr. Hobbs's room and then Emily
Yes.
can join the other one. So yeah, let me. Okay. So Dr. Hobbs is in group one, is that right, Faith?
Yes.
Okay, I'll join that one.
Hello.
Hi. So, Brandy, I know you guys are with Owens, but is it Owens Hall County? Because I want to pull up your report.
Yes, we are Hall County. We
Mm,
do Hall and Buffalo.
Okay, I will pull up that one.
I guess I should say districts 9 and 10.
Trying to make my report open. Oh, here it is. So on this report, it looks like we have data from Hall County. Let me share it with you. Did you get two separate reports or just one?
I think they went to Jen. I'm not seeing the report.
You're not seeing a report?
No, I think it probably went to Jen.
Okay, Jen, can you hear me?
She was having issues earlier hearing.
Okay. Is it, I think we send out to whoever's indicated as the program lead, so that could be, but the report you get, Michelle, do you know, did we send one for Hall County or was there also one for Buffalo?
I'm pretty sure I sent both. I can double check here, but Brandy, if you want to drop your email address
Yes.
in the chat, then what I'll do is I will get an email going here and I'll send both Hall County and Buffalo County to you here so you'll have copies.
So, would you like me to go ahead and just go through it? Like, I can go through the Hall County one that we have up on the screen, if that would be helpful.
Yes.
So as Michaela mentioned, what we can see is like of the 92 youth that were referred. So right here you see move this the total number referred. And we can see that most of these are being served through electronic monitor, and then 25 had a youth coach or a youth community youth coach.
Mhm.
This chart is the one where what you're looking for is to see who didn't enroll in the program and how many youth is it? Because sometimes, like she said, if you have like two cases, like it looks like a big percent, but here I mean, it's roughly a third of your cases are not enrolling. So that would be a really great, like if I was like, how do I improve this program? I would first start by looking at how can I get more youth enrolled? Um, on this chart, in this section, what you can see, you got kind of a younger kid, 11-year-old, all the way up to 18 with the average age of 15. And they're mostly male. So 65 of the 92 kids were males. You guys are doing a really nice job. Like you're serving a large Hispanic population. So when I look at this graph, I go back up to this one, and it looks like 30%. So you're doing a nice job even enrolling many of the Hispanic youth. But it's still coming out as about 30% of the total referrals. So I'll keep going on this. One area for kind of cleanup it looks like there are roughly 40 youth where a race was not specified. So that's a data issue. What I would do is I would look into your data um, and whoever collects data, see why that's happening. Sometimes it's whoever gives, like, let's say you get referrals from probation pre-adjudicated kids, wherever you're getting that referral, maybe it doesn't have a race on there. But the reason is with this many being unspecified, it could be skewing these numbers up here. So pay
Yeah.
attention.
And I don't think none of our referrals have races on them that we
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. So that's what this comment says. This white box is that 40% of the cases we don't have a race or ethnicity. So as you can imagine, with it being that high, it could dramatically change like what these charts look like and who you're serving. And so I would definitely spend some time in the future looking at that.
Okay. Do I just reach out? Who would I reach out to about that since they don't put it on the referral?
Yeah, I would, whoever sends you the referral forms, I would just call that person and say, is there a way to get race and ethnicity on this form?
Okay.
And maybe show them this graph because this graph is yours for you for Owens. You can decide how you want to distribute this. So you could show it to them and say, like, it doesn't count against you on the total score, but it makes it more difficult to know if you're serving this population well. So that's
Okay.
one place I would look.
And then I will also suggest, Dan, is Owens, Brandy, if you guys collect when you do an intake, when you do get referrals from whoever, if you have any internal mechanisms in place to be able to collect data for race and ethnicity, that could be another way to have that data to enter into JCMS.
Okay.
So this next chart, what we're looking at is like just do your referrals remain pretty consistent for each year. Sometimes if a program isn't funded, it's all flat line right here, but it looks like um you are enrolling roughly the same number of kids. Wherever there's a gap like this, you see these two different mountains. This shows that there's kids that are not getting enrolled. So right here and right here, these time frames. So there's nothing like it's not a consistent month of the year, but it just looks like there's sometimes where kids are not getting enrolled. And sometimes you can look at this chart below and see why that would be. So there's something interesting happening here for at least these 2 years, not so much this year, right? But these 2 years, your referral source in those first 2 fiscal years withdrew the referral. So what that means is you should go back to them and say, why are you sending cases that you don't really want us to serve? But it looks like that really improved this the fiscal year 22 to 23. So if it's something you're seeing this year as you're serving kids, definitely talk to the referral source because we want cases referred to us that we can actually serve and that there isn't some underlying process, factor happening. Like maybe they have a law violation that they don't think should have an electronic monitor or something. Otherwise, your closing case is pretty nicely this year, like 14, or this year, I say this year, but it was 22, 23 fiscal year. So 14 of the 23. You have a couple of cases that moved away, but otherwise, like this is pretty low for cutoff monitor. So you don't have, like sometimes if you see a spike around cutoff monitor, that's something for a program to be aware of. But like I said, it looks like you guys are doing a really nice job successfully closing cases. The area to focus on is getting those kids enrolled. Like if you know, and maybe you do you know what causes some cases to not come and use your service?
It honestly just depends. All of this was before me, so
Oh yeah.
I don't know the reason, that it was going on for these years. I was actually gone. I was here previously for 5 years and then came back. So this is all during the time I wasn't here, so I wouldn't know.
Sorry about that. Like evaluation always has that lag time and it's like, darn it.
Yes.
So on this chart, what we're looking for is you see this unspecified race. That's something to clean up. But otherwise, like Hispanic youth, you can see is solidly they're a population you appear to be able to work really consistently well with because there's no gaps, right? And for white youth, it just looks like maybe there aren't referrals during that time. So it might be the population maybe there wasn't a need for services for white youth. The other thing is really consistent. Your winter months here, you have higher peaks of services or need for services. Then going on to outcomes. So when we're looking at outcomes, we really, first of all, want to see, are there certain groups that are more likely to be successful? Because of this lack of data, I think that could be hurting some of your outcomes because it brings some of your success rates down. Like your overall success rate's about 36% were successful. And about half cases were closed for other reasons or the youth did not participate. This isn't too bad. 75% of the population remained in the community. Definitely want to see that. And close to 75% remained or had some or significant progress at discharge. That's how it's entered into the data set. So if that's goofy language, you can either pick no significant progress, some, or significant progress made at discharge. And then when we look at future system involvement, you guys had enough cases because we need at least 10 in each box to compare. So what we were looking at is just overall. So this is youth that did not participate at all. 10 of the 32 who did not participate. So 31% went on to have some kind of future system involvement. And we break it out here by what do we mean by future system involvement? So a lot of the kids had a law violation, were placed on probation a lot, but 8 of the 10 or 8. So one thing to note on this is these can be duplicate counts. So a kid could get a law violation, could end up on probation, and then could also go to detention. So these are not individual youth. These are events that could happen. Something that's interesting when we compare successful to unsuccessful is you are more successful so fewer kids who do your program have a subsequent law violation, but it's still really high. And these aren't even as high as we've seen some ATDs. Like ATDs have really high future system involvement. It's just we're seeing it across the state. So just so you know, of the 16, so there were 33 total kids who were successful in your program. 16 of them had something that was future system involvement. So 11 of those, 11 had a law violation. 14 were eventually placed on probation, and then 7 ended up in detention of your successful cases. One thing to note, we try really hard, like if you have a kid that's on an ATD and they mess up, they have a violation, and then they end up on probation or even in detention, we try to have enough time, like we try to distance your discharge reason, or we look at was detained at discharge and we separate those out. So you're not getting double dinged, if that makes sense, right? Because you don't want to have a count against you twice. So what we're doing here, really, we're looking at successful cases versus unsuccessful, with the hope that your successful cases will have much lower law violations, probation, and detention. And yours is lower. It's not much lower, but it's lower. I'm looking at the bottom here, tells you whether it's statistically significant. I have to read it. Oh, it's saying there is no significant difference in future system involvement between the two types of cases. So that's something to be aware of is any kind of efforts that, and I know this is a tough population, but any kind of efforts or programming that would help your success, the kids that you're actually working with, helping them stay away from subsequent law violations is going to improve your outcomes. So, and then this chart right here, the language is a little difficult, I would say, but survival probability just means how long does it take them to have a new law violation? And so what we see is that kids who didn't participate at all it took them 208 days until they had some kind of later law violation, versus successfully discharged kids, it took 288 days, so a little bit longer. And then those that were unsuccessful, it was 261 days. So again, we're seeing successful cases do take longer to end up system involved. So that's good, right? Because we can't guarantee that like Owen's program is going to last like 10 years, right? Like we can't, we don't have any programs that work that way with adolescents, unfortunately, because I'd send all my kids to them. But we want to see a certain amount of time. And overall, that's not, you are seeing it in the right direction. It's just there isn't a dramatic difference in this population. And then this chart, this was we jointly created these with the Crime Commission, and they wanted us to weight things this year. So that's the point scale. So what you're seeing here, overall future system involvement is high. Almost all of the ATDs had a lower score here because of that high rate. And Michaela alluded to this, but after we created the matrix and we got it all approved, and then we went back to the Crime Commission and asked for a higher rate, because probation cases overall are reported about like 30% future system involvement. And we're seeing ATDs have 50 to 85%. Like they're really high. And we don't know why that is, right? Like, well, we know it's a tougher population. But anyway, we went back to them and they're like, no, we agreed on this matrix. So overall scores are really, it's hard to get into the promising range because there's so much emphasis. There's two separate scores on this future system involvement. So that's why the overall percent is low and you can read each of these. I'm going to scroll back up. So progress at discharge, you were at like 72%, so you didn't quite meet that 80% threshold. And then detained at discharge, I have to go back and look at your report. 10, what percent were detained? Oh, 8 youth were detained by probation. So those outcomes are really what's driving that you didn't get any points in those for those outcomes. You didn't get points here. So overall, when you add all of the boxes together, it ends up a negative number because the +2.5 that you got from this box is canceled out by that high recidivism rate. So I don't want you to feel really badly about that. We're seeing this across all the ATDs, and we don't know why the law violations and probation and detention stays. It's just really prevalent in this population. So then all of this this evaluation, this is a little bit more analytical or academic than we've had in the past because one of the staff, Dr. Shaw at the Crime Commission, asked us to do a higher level of analysis this year. So Michaela's done a really nice job of doing that. Sometimes it's a little harder to read. So if there's any part of it, you're like, what does this mean? We can pause for a minute. I'll say one more thing and then we can pause. But the recommendations, I tried to write them really simply because that's how I like to get my information. So hopefully that will be helpful. And we try to be real specific, like things we think, if it was my program, this is what I would do. I would look at why 1/3 of the referred cases did not enroll. Like, so digging right into some of the ways I could see you could improve the program. So I'll pause and we can go whatever direction you'd like. I can answer questions.
I don't think I have any questions at this time. Just because
I
since
have-
this was all before me, I think Candy has a question.
Yeah, I have a question, and I'm in our Omaha office. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Nice
I
to
do
meet
have
you.
a question about why EM services and CYC services are not looked at separately.
Yeah. Because under like when we sit down at the beginning of the year with the Crime Commission, and they basically ask us to analyze data, these were the way they broke them out. I don't know if they didn't expect there'd be a difference, but after we ran these reports, I immediately was curious about like because electronic monitor, I don't think we would expect very much progress and changes compared, like we would expect that community youth coaching is probably doing more interactive activities and relationship building and those things with the youth. So it's something we can take under advisement and ask the Crime Commission next year that those get broken out, because you're totally onto something, right? Like all of these effects or recidivism or all of the things you're seeing in this report could be driven by this 67 cases.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would very much love to see that broken out. I would venture a guess that it'll be significantly different because of the two services being so significantly different. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah, and I will definitely, I'm making a note as we speak that and I'll send them to Michelle. So these all filter back to the Crime Commission and um yeah, I think there's such a difference in those services that you're probably right, but without running the data that way, we don't know.
Right.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Great
going
question.
forward, will these still be like every 3 years, or is that going to change, or will we do it every year, or will it just stay every 3 years we do this?
We're, if they ask my opinion, I would like to see them every year and maybe even package them in a way that the programs could get them every 6 months, right? So they're more timely. You're not looking back to 3 years when you weren't even employed there. So I would like to see them be much more timely and be done within at least a year. So you're looking back to something that, cases you were working on a few months ago. So that will be my recommendation. I don't know what will happen moving forward, but we'll make the recommendation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So make sure that you've gotten the report, that you read through it. Please do take time to do the evaluation. It's okay if you're like, I really didn't like this, or I didn't like that chart, or this didn't make sense to me, or this was complicated, whatever you want to say. It does help shape next year. And then you can even put comments on there. Like I said, I made a note, but having them broken out by the different two different services would be a good recommendation. So otherwise, you're free to go I think when you hit leave room, you can either leave room or you can looking for what the button says, leave room or leave the Zoom. So it's totally up to you. You're welcome to go back to the other room. I
Yeah, and
think.
if you do want to leave, Brandy and Candy, go ahead and click on that evaluation link and you can complete that evaluation later then. It'll pop up on your screen there.
Okay. Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Yeah, bye everyone.
I don't know how to leave, Michelle. Oh, leave
Yeah, if
room.
you
I
hit to
see.
leave the room, and then I think there might be another group that wants to meet. So
Back to before. Right. Hi there, Faith. So,
Hey.
is this one group or are you moving us into another room?
There's two groups in here, so I'll move you guys back into the rooms.
Okay.
I can.
Did you break it? I should pull
Maybe.
up the report. What room are you putting me in with what county?
Sarpy.
Okay.
And Michelle, you'll be in room 1 again.
okay. Oh yeah, because I have to join myself.
There we go. Go to room.
Seconds.
I think Owens is still here. Nope.
Yeah, I just removed her. I think she was having technical issues because she sent me an email that I didn't see until
Got
after I stopped sharing my screen. So I apologize. I didn't get to
No.
her. How you doing, Michelle
Um,
Snyder? Long time no see.
Yeah, stranger danger. How are you?
Hey, living the dream.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Liking your new steps?
I can't complain. Keeps me busy, keeps me out of trouble, right? Learning some new stuff every day. So,
That's what they say.
yeah,
That's what they say.
it keeps us young when we got all these fun things going on in our lives.
Fun thing. Okay, so do you guys want to talk about care or do you want to talk about the other
Talk
ones?
about care first.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. So share which one? Care. I think this is the right one. I have too many reports open. You should be seeing the care report now.
Huh?
Okay. So these, you guys are one of the lucky programs that got broken out into two different groups, which is really helpful because um, electronic monitor, we expect to see different outcomes than like a community coach. So tell me where you would like, or if there's certain graphs, or if you want me to go in from the beginning and just kind of plow through it, what would be most
I
helpful
don't,
for
you
you?
know, I can read it just fine, but I just have questions on page 2.
Yeah.
At the very top, it says in 2021, the program did not enroll 10% of the youth referred. Can we get what cases those are?
Yeah, I can ask that those get
Because
sent.
we are 100% enrollment, so I'm curious if that's a data error. I mean, we don't have an option to take a kid or not take a kid. They're court ordered under the program, and we don't get to say yes or no at
Yeah.
all. So that's got to be a data error somewhere, and I just
Yeah,
like
it
to have
looks
it
like
corrected.
they're all grouped in that first fiscal year there. Because any of these gaps, yeah, okay. I will get those.
Because yeah, just something, and I'm wondering if that was a data change when you guys did a update on a data somewhere during that period of time, and then data got lost, and we went back and tried to fix, and weird things happened, or
Yeah.
there was some kind of weird 1 to 2 kids that really didn't get referred, which is just super bizarre. Just not how care works.
So this is the reasons. No, let me look. Failure to appear. Did not participate with referral withdrawn, but
I
so
don't know what that would be clicked for. Elaine, do you know what that means?
I do not.
So we don't know who, like, was that an option for you ever, Elaine? Did you ever click that right there?
And unless, unless they went to court and their case was dismissed and they were just terminated. That's, the court withdrew the referral for care because their case was
Terminated?
terminated.
So I'll see if I can pull the profile IDs. I think you know this, but the Crime Commission doesn't give us names or dates of birth, so we just have data. But I believe I have profile ID. So if I can pull them, at least you could go back and look at those cases and
Yeah, because I'm just like, what is a referral withdrawn? You don't.
yeah.
And
That's-
and that could be, where the judge, the
Terminate.
county attorney just terminated. I mean, they didn't successfully complete it. They didn't
Mhm.
unsuccessfully. Their case was just dismissed.
Yeah. So this is it's just did not participate. So what I tell programs if you're seeing that, because it's still consistently happening across the 3 years, well, not so much in this middle year, is to check with the refer like that referral process. When we see a number in that box, it means they're sending you cases that really aren't eligible or there's something about them, and that shouldn't count against the program. Like it doesn't count in your overall matrix or score. It's just part of the process isn't working.
Go back
Because
on that. And who would be the one that would send us a case that wouldn't be? You said somebody's sending you a case that wouldn't be referred or wouldn't be.
yeah, there's something about like when that case goes back to court, if they're pulling it back, why are they pulling it back? This is electronic monitor.
Who's they?
Yeah.
Who
Well,
is they?
where do you get your cases from?
A judge court orders them on the care program.
So something's happening, if the data's right, something's happening that when they go, they don't actually get to participate. This is yeah, Gare. they don't actually get to participate, is what the data is showing, that case is getting pulled back. So it's the judge
Elaine, do
pulling
you
it
think
back.
that that doesn't happen? Elaine, do you think that that is like if they were detained home on care and then at the time of detention, the judge decides that they aren't gonna go through with the care
No.
program? No?
No, that wouldn't be because there's a separate entry for that where there's detained home on care pending court. So if they show up for court, then they successfully complete, that. And then if they're placed back on care, then another entry is made for them.
Okay. I just really didn't understand it. Like maybe like but the do not that part, but anyways.
Yeah, so we'll pull those and see. Like it's always good to check the data. And I can't pull it up quickly, but it's always good to check the data. But it's sometimes if it's like 1300, then it would tell me, oh, it's something that happened this one year, but it's still a phenomena that's happening. So that's why it's good to pull the cases and know sometimes we just don't have the right discharge way of reflecting your discharge, or sometimes it's really the judge is pulling it back. So we'll look into, I'll try to send you those cases.
Judge, you mean like a judge terminating them?
No,
When you say
because that
judge,
would be, well, tell me a reason a case would close, right? A kid's successful, that's that top row. A kid runs
Well,
away, second row.
so they've already gone through every single YRTC and everything else, and they got in trouble again, and they were detained, and they were detained home on house arrest, and then they went through the process, and they're still on house arrest, and the judge says, "I'm terminating you, not amenable. Your
Yeah,
entire case, you're done. You aged out. We're done."
yeah,
Is that what you mean by take back?
yeah.
Right, or I was thinking, Michelle, just based off some of the past work I've done between Sarpy and Douglas County, if a kid came in and got referred to the care program and then it was a Douglas County youth or something of that nature, would that be a potential scenario that could cause that to happen?
I don't have youth that are referred to the care program that live in Douglas County. We don't serve Douglas County youth.
Okay.
Even at the time of, I mean, if they were to go home,
Well, and maybe it could be just a data entry error, right? I mean, so when we're clicking
yeah,
through
I just, like I said, I'm
JCS
just curious because I
Yeah.
don't know what that means. If there's enough of them between 73 and 56 kids and 7 out of them, that seems like enough to me to ask that, what does that
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
You
we'll
know,
pull the profile and send it to you, and then you guys can dig in and take a look.
the rest of them are pretty clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Rest made sense to me. Just the last page, unless you see something you want to discuss.
One thing I will note, I was going to look at yours. We're seeing really high across ATDs, and this was something we negotiated with the Crime Commission and then renegotiated because the matrices changed in the scoring this year. But ATDs, we're seeing really high future system involvement across the state. It's ranging from like 40 to 85% of
Oh, I'm
cases.
sure.
So it's higher than we thought it would be and higher than what probation reports.
So it's the reoffense, right?
It's new law violation. It could be status violation, new law violation, placed on probation, and ends up in detention. So all of those things.
Yeah, we're seeing
Yeah.
that across the board.
Yeah, it's high.
Yeah.
So okay.
Okay. On page 5, unless you have anything you want to talk about on this page.
No. I can't see my. Is this page 5? I'm looking at my
Yes,
page.
that's page
numbers.
5. Up at the top or the second paragraph.
Mhm.
It says most youth were 96. Okay, most youth 96 referred to the program were enrolled and over half were discharged from the program successfully. Nearly 60%. We're going to go all the way down. I'm really looking at this sentence right here that says a relatively high Oh, shit. Well, many
Yeah.
youth remained right here. The sentence right before that. It says, while many youth, yes. This 11% were either placed in care or group homes. Can we have those kids? While many youth remained in their communities. This is at the time of discharge, and I want to know which one of those numbers those were, because sometimes and if we were getting counted as an unsuccessful on the program, I just want to be able to talk to staff about that, because I don't want them to feel down when they see these evaluations, because I try to tell them that it's don't take it with about a grain of salt, nothing personal. But if these 11% of the kids were kids that were being supervised by the program that I can think of right now, that were being supervised by the program so that they wouldn't be detained while they were waiting for a foster home or a group home and were home, then that's not an unsuccessful discharge to me. That means they made it to their group home and to their foster home. And that's what we were in place to do. And so I would like to look into those individual cases.
Yeah. So we
Because
don't count that as unsuccessful, just so you know. It's just one of the measures. So I'll swing up here. So this is like the successful, how many are successful. But this is just really who gets to stay at home and who doesn't. But I'll double check that with Michaela as well. And then we'll send you
Right,
those.
because it says how many youth, 76 out of 189, were reported to experience some regression upon discharge.
Oh, sorry.
While many youth remained in their communities at discharge, 11 were placed in foster homes, 11 were detained, a high relative percent of youth experienced after discharge from the program. So I'm wondering, are they saying that if I discharge them because they went to a foster home, does that mean they were unsuccessful? That's the FSI where they violated after being discharged or while they're on the program. I mean, how are they considering those kids that were on the program and the reason why they left was because they were placed in a foster home or a group home? How are they?
I lost your question. Is your question, they can definitely have future system involvement even after they've been, let's say a kid's placed in a foster home and then has the law violation. Yes, they're getting counted as future system involvement. So it's anybody who has closed their case after they've worked with you. And it could be like we report it in 3 different ways, right? So this is all the enrolled cases, but this is just the kids who were successful with you. And that could be still kids who went on to a foster home, right? So I get it. I get what you're saying. Like
That's not considered if they left my program to go to a foster home or to a group home. That's not considered an unsuccessful discharge in your eyes.
No, that's not unsuccessful. No, it's just there's another measure besides success. Like let's say they successfully complete your program. In the ideal world, in the literature, that kid gets to go home. So that's why that's one of the measures is if they remained in their community. But like I said, I'm going to check with Michaela and double check and look back to the literature because we tried to link all of these to research. So I'm curious about the foster home outcome and how that was coded.
It comes in the same sentences as however many youth, 76 out of 189 were reported to experience some regression. So it makes me feel like that's being marked as a regression since that's what it specifically states in that sentence prior to. Many of the youth remained in their communities at discharge, experienced some sort of discretion upon discharge. While many youth remained in their communities at discharge, 11% were placed in either foster or group home, 11% were detained, and 16% absconded. So that using that with detained and absconded makes me feel that that is not counted as something positive. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
When
so
it's
maybe
in the same sentence as
yeah. It's
okay.
in the same sentence, but it's
Mhm.
these are broken out into like these 5 different categories, right? So that success at discharge, that's this line. So when it's counted on this matrix, it's actually counted as separate categories, but verbally, I think Michaela combined them all. So
Okay.
but this is the stat you just read about 11% showed some regression. That's
Mhm.
why that score came in.
Right, right. And that's where I'm wondering is who's the 11% that were placed in foster care or group home? If that's considered negative, and takes me backwards. And a kid was on house arrest until they went to the group home, because that's what the judge wanted them, or they can sit in the JJC, but instead the judge chose to put them home on house arrest. They successfully made it through house arrest until they got placed into their group home or to Boys Town. Then how can that be a regression for me? But anyways, it's not worth the back and forth. And then my next question was, are any of these duplications?
On the future system involvement or cases?
When you give off the percentages in the evaluation summary, are any of them duplicated kids, or are this all individual cases?
All the cases are individuals until we talk about future system involvement. So everything before future system involvement are individual cases, individual youth.
Mhm.
And then when we get into future system involvement, of all the kids enrolled, I'll use this as an example. There's 109 out of the 189 had future system involvement, right? But this kid that had the status violation might have also been in this population that had a law violation that also ends up on probation and eventually goes to detention. That's just how the data comes to us, and without names, we can't tease that out. So these are not individual kids.
Mhm. Okay, and so 105 could be the duplication for the last 3 years. So if Bobby was in detention in 20, 21, and 22, he could be ran in here 3 different times under the word detention.
Nope, we only count if they have it, then it's 1 is the maximum count. So Anne gets a law violation, it's 1. If I go to probation, it's 1. It's just, it could be, I have a law violation, I go to probation and detention. But no, we don't count, like, if Bobby has 10 law violations, that doesn't count against him. It's just 1.
Okay,
They had
just
some.
one for the 3 years that were being evaluated.
Yes, just
Okay.
1.
So all right, so even if Bobby broke the law every year and got locked up every year, he still just couldn't count. Got it. Perfect.
Right. Just 1.
Interesting. Mhm.
Yeah, because it's really high considering we only count it once, right? Like and that's true across all
No, it
ages.
doesn't surprise me at all. I'm very I've 25 years, just like you guys. I mean, we've got a lot of years in this belt, and I don't think that many of us sitting here have seen some of the kids that we've ever. And so that doesn't, it's sad, it's hard, but we try.
Yeah.
So that answers that one. So then the last sentence in that same second paragraph, it says additionally 8%.
Okay,
The same paragraph we were just in. And it's the last sentence.
Additionally, 8% had a new law violation within a year of discharge from the program, and 15% were placed on probation at some point following discharge. Yeah.
Okay. So my question for that one is, which makes sense to me, but if they were discharged from the house arrest program and then adjudicated, does that count against me then?
No, we spent a lot of time talking about how many days, because we don't have to guess, right? Like it can't be the same day because then you're going to pick up on the reason they're discharged. So do you wait a month? Do you wait 2 months? And because we're looking at court data, I think she used 60 days to try to tease that out. The other thing we do is we look at if they were detained at discharge, we take those cases out because we already know they closed. Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking this question, because I robbed Quick Shop. I got placed on the care program at the time of detention.
Mm-hmm.
I have an 8-week care program, and I successfully completed it in 8 weeks. But the court system surely hasn't caught up to me in 8 weeks as far as everything that I need to do with the PDI and all of that. Then I get placed on probation months later, and I've already completed the care program, and that's the same docket. These kids were placed on probation at some point following discharge. discharge of my program? Because everybody's going to get placed, many of them are going to get placed on probation afterwards. That's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's why we were trying to renegotiate with the Crime Commission on these matrices. Our original percent we think was too low. But I'm looking at actually most of them ended up in detention. Out of all the cases that enrolled, not that many. 27 ended up on probation out of all of these. Most of them ended up in detention. See
Well,
it
and
same.
I get that, but I mean, you're talking about a program that got negatives for it. So I'm trying to understand that where we're at here with that. So, okay, then that answered my question also, in regards to those kids that were placed on probation. So the care program is going to get kids in which, are later on going to be placed on probation because they get program kids throughout the process. So we're
Yeah, I'd
good.
encourage you to look at this though, because it's not as high as I would have thought. And we really thought through that, right? We were like, these kids could end up on probation like tomorrow, and but most of them are ending up in detention. So that's like out of the 109, 105 of the whole population went to detention. Same thing here. Out of the successful cases, 54, 50 went to detention. And out of the unsuccessful 57 kids, 56 went to detention. So it's detention is really what's driving that future system involvement more than probation. Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Carol?
No.
Okay, I don't have any other questions either.
So we want to try to send you data on the referrals that were withdrawn 2020 through 2021 fiscal year. And then if we can also send profiles for which youth were placed in foster care, right?
Or group home, yeah.
Okay. All right. Did you want to look at the other one really quick?
I don't have any questions in regards to that one.
Okay.
If you do, then we could, but does anybody else have questions in regards to reporting center?
I do not.
No. Okay. Please do try to take that Qualtrics survey. It's fine if you're like, I hate these things. Like we negotiated with the Crime Commission, and these are a little bit different than last year. So let us know if we can improve some things, and I will follow up with you on the data.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Maybe Boo. All right. Michelle.
I'm here.
Faith, thanks a lot for getting us in those breakout rooms. I'm gonna have to really figure out, maybe I can't talk and click at the same time.
Worries.
So on the ones you're not, just make sure you give me a heads up on the day you're not gonna be there, and
Yeah.
Michelle will figure it out. So
Depending on how long it takes you guys, I guess I'm in class till through like 3:10, so you'll probably be done with it by then. So I could easily just hop on.
Faith, I have a question, and maybe you can help me. Sarpy would like their cases. I think last year we asked Drew permission. So Michaela or Michelle, do you mind asking Drew if we're allowed to release cases to programs when they have questions about their data? And then, Faith, I might need your help finding their data.
Mhm.
I'm looking for, because I think we're going to have to do a further isolation.
Yeah, 'cause they were talking about it before they went into the room with you. I was like,
Yeah.
So I know that Michaela got permission on the anomaly reports to be able to share the client IDs.
Uh-huh.
Do I need to get specific permission because of these reports and the data?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we just need to say when programs have questions about their data, may we release the cases they have questions about, because we only have profile ID, so we'd be releasing just the profile ID.
Mhm. Okay, I'll send a note. And do I include Aaron and Amy on that email? Because I'm sending
would
it to
s-
Drew.
I would start with Drew and Aaron, and they
Okay.
can include it. And then Faith, I don't know if you can help me find Sarpy's care program. That's the data set I'm looking for. So we don't have to do it right now, but if we could, I just want
Uh,
to make sure it doesn't fall off my radar.
yeah, I think I know where it is. It's ATD, right?
Yeah.
Um, should be in the evaluation and syntax, the folder we've been working in, and then
ATD.
SPSS. Yep,
Oh,
ATD SPSS data files, and then what was it called?
Sarpy care program.
I have
I think it's
SARPy EN or SARPy RCT
I think it's
or ET.
RCNT.
Oh,
So
it's
it's the
EM.
bottom one.
It's the EM one and that we were on because that other one's the reporting center.
Oh, it's not the care.
Okay.
It's care is the electronic one.
Yeah, CARES the electronic monitor program.
Okay, so that'll be the second to the bottom one in the ATD SPSS data files within the secure drive.
Okay. I'm going to try to open that because they have some questions about the way the cases were discharged. If I can't figure it out, I'll ask, I will ask, come on, brain. I'll try to get them ready. It's the discharge reason, right?
Yeah, because or they were talking about enrollment, I thought. That's what they were talking about when they were in here, where they were like, well, we have to enroll everyone. And so if kids like run away during our program, is that counted against us? Something like that.
So I'm looking at this data set, and if I look at referral, enrollment, discharge ID, right? So I'm trying to figure out which cases are not enrolled, and I might have to go back. Referral source ID. Oh, sorry, I clicked off of it. I don't know if you can see it. But they have more than just, they were saying they only get cases from the judge.
Yeah.
Let me see the referral source ID. Do you see it? Did I lose it?
Well, there's the
I can discharge group. That's future systems.
systems.
So she wanted to know of the cases that had regression if they were placed in foster homes. Oh, I
Well,
don't want to
that's
mess.
that was it. Yeah, she wanted to know the ones that were discharged that went to foster care or group home. She wanted those client IDs so that to help staff not feel upset that kids aren't successful. But I don't
Hmm.
know. I mean, I think if when they're discharging the kid in JCMS, they can say that the kid was successful with the care program because the kid followed the program, but then they were discharged to a group home because that's what the judge ordered them to, or what have you.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would count against them. But I didn't run the numbers, so I can't. That'd be a Michaela question.
Yeah.
But then the other question was about the discharge reason because she had and I don't have the report up, but it's the discharge. So you got the absconded.
It's the I'm not seeing what the category she's saying. She was saying withdraw.
Yeah, can you go down farther?
Oh, you're right. There it is. Withdrew. So it's all of these cases. She wants the profile ID on
Yeah.
those.
So it says the referral source. So I mean, what they need to know is the client IDs for that case, so then they can look to see who the referral source was, because that's going to be their data that they entered into JCMS.
I can tell you, here are the judges. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
the
referral
judges.
person. So, I mean, I wonder if I can I don't know if I can, I don't know what Michaela gave them last year, but yeah, those are your cases that have some regression too. I just am not seeing the foster care. Oh, right here. Placed at a manual, removed from care, released from care, referred back to diversion. That
Oh,
one
is this
should,
the narrative section that we don't have access to?
well,
Or
it's,
no?
yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think we're supposed to have access to it.
Hmm.
Oh, right here. Care was
See?
vacated at court.
Yeah.
She was unsuccessfully terminated from court. Noah moved to his father's residence in Omaha. So that's that Sarpy Douglas County thing because the care
Yeah.
program won't go into Douglas County.
Yeah.
And then there's some that
So,
are blank.
yeah. So I think what we will want to do is provide the profile IDs on those cases, but I might scrub the other stuff just because. So if we can ask Drew, then I might just need some help pulling them later.
I'll send him an email and I'll put you on there so you can kind of see if he gets back with us.
Oh, that'd be good. Um, I might just go ahead and pull them out now so it's ready
Well, right there, is that the client ID? Yeah, there you go.
to profile ID so that we would be able to, they would be able to grant number. Hmm. Yeah, I think I'll copy these into an Excel document and then that way we could get them ready for Sharpie. Because that last year, that was one of the things we struggled with was the follow-up from these meetings. So Faith, are you aware of any other follow-up that we had?
Yes. So Maggie from Dodge
Maggie from
County,
Dodge. Yep.
she wanted to do one, but she was the only one from her like program, I believe, and she wanted other people from her program to be there, and she also had to go pick up her kids. So she was like, "Can I just meet you the guys later?" So I said
Well,
that.
that's the Michelle, it's up to you. This is what we try not to do because we have so
Mhm.
many reports. Like
Yeah,
I get it. I gotta pick up my kids. I got a sick kid.
yeah,
So part of me is like, it's up to them to bring their group together and then they can schedule it, but the emphasis, like
yeah.
they'll have to do it. So,
Mm.
um, so follow up on Michelle on these. You should get a list of all the follow up from anybody who met. So getting them their data so they can check things is great, but the other program, like you can reach out to them and say,
Mm.
pull your group together and let us know when you can meet, but the burden's got to be on them. They got to try to do something.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can send Maggie a note and letting her know whoever it is she wants to be a part of it, and then to send me a couple days and times. And then I'll compare to our schedules to see if we can get something in place.
So ideally, if we can schedule it around the next time we're doing one of these, that would be perfect, just because we're already thinking about them but
Yeah.
if we can't, so,
I
okay,
think, this one we had quite a few programs. We had some people, and then the next two on Thursday are smaller programs. So there
yeah.
just won't, I don't think it'll be, well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to jinx
No,
us.
you're right. There's definitely some that are easier.
Okay,
How
Michaela
was,
just,
yeah, good.
yeah, I was gonna say, Michaela just sent us an email about Lancaster County.
Mm, I'm sure they had beef,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Should I look at it? I'm sending you an email. Okay, I'm gonna look at it really quick. Um, yeah, Faith, just let me know the ones you can't be on because, whew,
Yeah.
holy cow. All right, where is that email? And you're fine to sign off if you want to,
Okay.
as long as we have all the follow-up we have to
Yep, that
do.
was the only one that was the only other program that was there. So
Okay, sounds good.
yeah, alrighty. I'll reach out to you tomorrow, Dr. Hobbs, about Scotts Bluff working on that.
Yes, please do. I don't even know what my schedule looks like tomorrow. I'm
Yeah,
a
no,
little,
that's fine. I was working on thesis, so I kind of turned my brain off from UB after I finished. So
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Alrighty. I'll
Thanks.
see you later. Bye.
Bye. Um, well, these are all interesting variables. I think I would categorize some of this as future work. Like some of it we
Yeah.
have to get off our plate now, like getting the data to SERPy. Um, Sarah would like the Cedars Lancaster County ATD report shared with her. You can also CC. So we should do that one right away.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Yep, I'll do that. Well, and that's kind of where, because Sarah oversees, she's the grant contact, but that's not her program. That's Cedar's program.
Yep.
So do you want me to share program reports to the county leads if they
Yeah, we
ask?
probably should. I mean, even before they ask, we should put them on there because the county lead, I think that's what we did last year. Let's ask Michaela that. I think we automatically shared them with the leads last year. But you're right, like, right, this is their data. The discharge reasons table on page 2 of Lancaster County is off. The total number 92, but the total number of cases was 132. Only one case is listed as having an unspecified discharge, so this will need to be checked and added, checked against the SPSS outputs and updated. Okay. Ugh, these are hard. So these two have to be done right away. If you can do the first one, I can do, let's
Yeah.
go. Try to figure
So
out the best way.
I'll take care of number 1, and then I'm going to send Michaela a separate email about making sure with the county leads, because I did not include the county leads for all the other programs. And
Mhm.
if I need to do that moving forward, then
Yeah, I think we did last year because Sarah
Okay.
asked me.
all right, I can do that. And then I'm going to get Drew that email here right away, so hopefully he can get back with us.
Mhm.
And we'll see what happens there, and we can then get that information to Sarpy County on their data questions.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take the PowerPoint from today because you made changes to it, and I'm just going to copy that one for the ones on Thursday.
The discharge reasons have to change on each PowerPoint. And so where I grabbed those from is in the narrative. In the narrative, we say at the very top of the before recommendations, we say, we scored your programs on these 5 things. And so I didn't even think about it till I was getting ready to weigh in. And then I was like, oh, and we should also add future system involvement to it. And I'm happy to look at it when you're done if you want.
Yep, I will. That'll be something I do tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. Because I'll just be at home tomorrow, I think, if we get this snow they're saying we're supposed to get. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay warm. Okay. All right, I'll get working on this and then
And Michelle said thank you. I'm gonna tell her, of course, and we will get permission to share those cases. Let me know.
all right, sounds like a plan. Have a good evening and we'll see you Thursday if I don't talk to you tomorrow, okay?
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.